Have you ever been around someone who keeps saying sorry, but somehow nothing ever changes? They hurt you, apologize, promise to do better, and then repeat the cycle again and again. At first it feels sincere. You want to believe them. You want to give them a chance. But deep down, you know something's off. Because if the apology was real, the behavior would have changed by now, right? It's like a broken alarm clock, ringing at the same time every morning, promising to wake you up, but never actually does. You keep resetting it, hoping next time it'll work. But deep down, you know it was never about the sound. It was about your decision to finally get up and walk away from it. Because while they're hoping you'll keep forgiving, you have a choice: fall into the cycle or rise above it. And when you rise, that's when the panic starts. The moment you stop accepting sorry on repeat, they'll wish they had changed before you walked away. So, how do you respond when someone keeps apologizing without ever evolving? Stay with me till the end, because what you'll hear today might just be the clarity you've been needing. Let's get started. Number 1. Observe patterns, not promises. Let's talk about a behavior that feels polite on the surface, but becomes deeply exhausting over time. Someone who constantly apologizes, but never changes. You know the type. They mess up, they say sorry, and you forgive them. Then a few days, weeks, or months later, they do the exact same thing. And again, another apology. Over time, it becomes a cycle. Mistake, apology, repeat. At first you believe them. You want to give them grace. But eventually you start to wonder, if they're always sorry, why does nothing ever change? Here's the truth. Don't be swayed by repeated sorry. Watch what they do, not what they say. Anyone can say the right words. Saying sorry doesn't take effort. But changing behavior, that's where the truth lives. If someone keeps hurting you the same way, no matter how sincere their apologies sound, they're not truly sorry. They're just comfortable. Comfortable with messing up, knowing you'll always give them another chance. Comfortable with making promises they never intend to keep. And this is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Epictetus once said, "Words are easy. It is action that reveals character." That couldn't be more true. Talk is cheap. Real growth doesn't come from saying you'll do better. It comes from actually doing better. And if someone's actions never change, it means their character hasn't either. Stoicism teaches us to stay grounded in reality, not illusions. If someone's pattern is hurting you, don't wait for the words to change. Wait for the behavior. That's where the truth is. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Rachel, was dating a guy who always apologized. He'd cancel plans last minute, ignore her messages for days, or say hurtful things in arguments. But every time, he'd come back with a heartfelt apology. He knew exactly what to say. "I'm working on it. You mean the world to me. I'll never do this again." And Rachel believed him for months. But nothing changed. The apologies kept coming, but so did the same old behaviors. Finally, Rachel stepped back and asked herself, "What's different since the first apology?" And the answer was, nothing. That's when she stopped listening to his words and started watching his patterns. And once she did, it was clear. He never intended to grow. He just didn't want to lose her while staying the same. So, what do you do when someone keeps apologizing but never changes? First, trust your eyes, not your ears. Second, stop rewarding empty promises with forgiveness. And finally, remember that people who are truly sorry don't just say it, they show it. At the end of the day, you deserve more than words. You deserve change. Don't settle for promises. Watch the patterns. That's where the truth is hiding. Number 2, set clear boundaries. Let's talk about a step that most people avoid, even though it's one of the most powerful things you can do: setting clear boundaries. When someone keeps saying sorry but never changes, the problem isn't just their behavior. It's the fact that you've let it continue without consequence. You might think you're being kind, understanding, or patient, but over time, what you're really doing is teaching them that they can hurt you and still keep access to you, that their words hold more weight than their actions. And that's not compassion, it's self-neglect. Here's the truth. Letting someone know that apologies mean nothing without change is one of the most important acts of self-respect. People need to understand that your forgiveness isn't free, that if they keep repeating the same mistakes, your patience will eventually run out. And that doesn't mean yelling, cutting them off abruptly, or starting a fight. It means calmly, firmly, and confidently drawing a line. A line that says, you don't get to treat me like this and still stay in my life as if nothing happened. This is where Stoic wisdom lights the path. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop allowing your soul to be a dumping ground for the misdeeds of others." In other words, stop accepting the emotional mess that others leave behind. If someone constantly pours chaos into your life, it's not noble to keep taking it. It's draining. You can be compassionate and still protect your peace. You can care and still say, enough. Boundaries aren't about punishment, they're about clarity. They teach others how to treat you, and more importantly, they remind you how much your peace is worth. Let me share a story. A guy I know, let's call him Ethan, was in a relationship with someone who always said sorry after hurting him. Missed dates, broken promises, unnecessary arguments. It was always followed by an apology. And Ethan kept forgiving. Until one day, after another, "I'm sorry," he finally said. "I've heard this before, but what's changed?" The silence that followed told him everything he needed to know. That's when Ethan calmly laid it out. No more chances without action. He didn't scream. He didn't threaten. He just made his boundary clear. And for the first time, the other person realized that the game was over. Ethan's peace wasn't up for negotiation anymore. So how do you set clear boundaries? First, drop the guilt. You're not wrong for expecting better. Second, communicate with calm strength. Don't explain endlessly, just be clear. And third, stand by your line. If they respect it, they'll rise to meet it. If they don't, that's your answer. At the end of the day, boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting the space where your peace lives. If someone can't respect that, no amount of sorry will ever be enough. Draw the line and don't apologize for it. If you found this valuable, hit like and subscribe for more powerful insights. Number 3, protect your peace. Let's talk about something that's more valuable than money, status, or anyone's approval: your peace. In a world full of noise, expectations, and emotional chaos, your inner calm is everything. It's what keeps you grounded, clear, and connected to yourself. But when someone repeatedly betrays your trust, constantly says sorry but never changes, and keeps you stuck in a cycle of disappointment, that peace starts to erode, slowly, quietly, and painfully. Here's the truth. Your inner peace is sacred. And repeated betrayal doesn't just hurt your feelings, it chips away at your sense of safety, clarity, and self-respect. Every time you accept an apology without change, every time you allow someone to come back after doing the same thing again, a piece of you starts to question whether your peace even matters. And that's where it becomes dangerous, not because of them, but because you begin to tolerate what you once said you wouldn't. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your armor. Seneca once wrote, "No person has the power to have you live with internal conflict unless you allow it." Read that again. No one can disturb your peace unless you open the door and invite them in. The chaos they bring, it only stays if you let it. The guilt they use to keep you in their cycle, it only works if you accept it. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you hate them. It means you finally love yourself enough to say, "Not anymore." Let me share a story. A man I know, let's call him Chris, had a brother who constantly borrowed money, made promises to repay, apologized when he didn't, and then did it all over again. At first, Chris kept helping, believing the next time would be different. But over the years, the stress started to show. Chris was anxious, drained, and always worried about what would happen next. One day, after another broken promise and another, "I swear this is the last time," Chris made a decision. He was done. Not because he stopped caring, but because he started caring about his own mental and emotional health more. And that one decision brought him peace he hadn't felt in years. So how do you protect your peace? First, recognize what's disrupting it. Pay attention to the patterns that drain you. Second, set limits, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. And third, remember that saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who finally understands the value of their own peace. At the end of the day, peace isn't given, it's built, and it's your responsibility to guard it. People will test your boundaries, apologize for breaking them, and try again. But if you want to protect your peace, you have to stop giving unlimited access to those who bring chaos. Don't let repeated betrayal become your normal. Stand up, walk away, and protect what's sacred, because your peace is worth more than their promises. Number 4, reflect on what you're tolerating. Let's talk about something we rarely take time to examine: what you're silently putting up with. In the name of love, loyalty, or being the bigger person, you may find yourself tolerating more than you should. Broken promises, recycled apologies, disrespect masked as misunderstanding, and the longer it goes on, the easier it becomes to call it patience. But here's the thing. Some of what we label as patience is really just pain we've gotten used to. Here's the truth. Are you accepting pain disguised as patience? Because if you are, it's not strength, it's self-neglect. Tolerance without boundaries turns into quiet suffering. And over time, that suffering chips away at your sense of self. You start second-guessing your standards, questioning your worth, and convincing yourself that what you're getting is the best you can expect. But deep down, you know the truth. You're settling. And the first step toward reclaiming your self-respect is becoming aware of what you've allowed to become normal. This is where Stoic wisdom strikes with clarity. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Every time you tolerate behavior that disrespects your peace, you're not just wasting time, you're wasting your energy, your potential, your sense of peace. Stoicism teaches us that life is too precious to spend stuck in cycles that don't serve us. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Once you see clearly what you've been tolerating, you can no longer lie to yourself about it. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Amanda, was in a relationship that looked fine on the surface. Her partner wasn't cruel, but he was constantly unreliable. He would promise to be better, to change, to show up fully, and he never did. And Amanda kept making space for him. She told herself she was being patient, giving him time. But months passed, then a year, then another. And one day, while journaling, Amanda asked herself a simple question. What am I actually tolerating in this relationship? The answers hit her hard. She wasn't being patient. She was accepting less than she deserved. That was the moment things changed. Not because he became someone new, but because she stopped pretending he would. So how do you reflect on what you're tolerating? First, get honest. Ask yourself what behaviors you've normalized. Second, remove the labels. Stop calling it love if it hurts more than it heals. Stop calling it patience if it comes at the cost of your peace. And third, use that awareness to choose better, starting with how you treat yourself. At the end of the day, your life is too short to keep tolerating what drains you. Self-respect doesn't begin when someone else starts treating you better. It begins when you stop accepting less. Reflect on it. Reclaim your power. And remember, what you allow is what will continue. Choose better. Choose you. Number 5. Let consequences teach them. Let's talk about one of the hardest but most necessary truths. Some people don't learn through words. You can explain, reason, plead, and even break down everything they've done wrong, and it still won't click. They'll nod. They'll say, sorry. They might even look like they understand, but then they go right back to the same behavior. That's when you have to realize they're not listening because they don't have to. Your forgiveness has no cost. Your words have no weight. And when there are no consequences, there's no reason for change. Here's the truth. If they won't learn from your words, let your distance be their teacher. The most powerful lessons aren't always spoken. Sometimes it's your silence, your absence, your decision to stop giving chances. Because people get comfortable repeating the same behavior when they know they'll still have access to you afterward. They think, I can mess up and they'll still be there. But the moment you stop showing up, the moment you step back, they feel the void. And that's when the lesson begins. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. Marcus Aurelius said, punishment is not always by hand. Absence is sometimes louder than action. You don't need revenge. You don't need to raise your voice. You just need to remove yourself. When your presence has been taken for granted, let your absence restore its value. Not as a game, not as manipulation, but as a final message. I meant what I said, and I won't repeat myself again. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, let's call him Alex, was constantly being let down by someone close to him. A friend who never respected his time, who always had an excuse, and who treated every apology like a reset button. Alex kept explaining how it hurt, kept forgiving, kept hoping it would finally sink in, but it never did. So one day, Alex stopped. No angry text, no confrontation. He simply went quiet. He pulled back his energy. The friend noticed, but by then it was too late. The space Alex created said everything that years of words couldn't. And for the first time, the friend truly understood what they'd lost. So, how do you let consequences speak? First, recognize when your words no longer hold power. Second, pull back, not to punish, but to protect your peace. And third, let the silence do its work. If someone values you, they'll reflect. If they don't, your absence will free you from a cycle that was never going to change. At the end of the day, you don't need to force someone to understand. Let them learn in your silence what they refuse to hear in your presence. Because sometimes, the most powerful lesson is not what you say. It's what you no longer allow. If you've watched the video this far, Don't forget to leave a comment with a thank God and give it a like if you enjoyed the content. Your support means a lot and motivates me to keep creating more interesting videos. I hope you find inspiration in them and that we continue learning together. Thank you for your support. Number 6. Remind yourself you deserve consistency. Let's talk about something you might have forgotten while trying to be understanding: your right to expect consistency. When someone apologizes over and over but nothing ever changes, it's easy to start questioning yourself. Maybe you wonder if you're asking for too much. Maybe you tell yourself, at least they're trying, even when you know deep down they're not. But here's the thing: you're not wrong for expecting growth. You're not unreasonable for wanting someone to follow through on their promises. Here's the truth: real remorse includes effort. Words without change are manipulation. And when you start believing that repeated apologies are enough, you start lowering the bar for what love, friendship, and respect are supposed to look like. You begin to accept inconsistency as normal. But it's not normal, and it's not love either. True care shows up not just in words, but in follow-through, in small actions, in effort that's visible and consistent. This is where Stoic wisdom brings us back to clarity. Epictetus said, "Demand not perfection from others, but do not accept repeated harm." That's the balance. You're not expecting people to be flawless, but you do have the right to expect growth, to expect consistency, and to protect yourself when someone's behavior keeps hurting you. Just because someone says they care doesn't mean they do. Care is proven in action, not apologies. Let me share a story. A woman I know, let's call her Natalie, was stuck in a relationship where her partner always said the right things. Every time he messed up, he'd say sorry, talk about how much he loved her, and promise to do better. But week after week, month after month, the same things happened: missed commitments, disrespectful moments, lack of effort. Natalie kept telling herself to be patient, that change takes time. But one night, after another empty apology, she paused and asked herself, what has actually changed? The answer? Nothing. That's when she finally reminded herself she wasn't asking for perfection, she was asking for consistency. And that was not too much. So how do you reclaim that mindset? First, remind yourself of what you deserve. Say it out loud if you need to. I deserve consistency. Second, observe the pattern. If someone keeps apologizing but never grows, they're not trying, they're stalling. And third, give yourself permission to walk away from half-effort love. You're allowed to want more than words. At the end of the day, you don't need flawless people. You need people who try, who show up, and who care enough to change. Don't settle for cycles. Don't water down your worth. Remind yourself, you deserve consistency, and you don't need to apologize for expecting it. Number 7. Choose detachment over drama. Let's talk about one of the most freeing shifts you can make: choosing detachment over drama. When someone keeps hurting you, keeps apologizing, and keeps repeating the same pattern, it's natural to want closure. You want that one final conversation where everything gets explained. You want them to finally understand how much they hurt you. But here's the truth. Closure doesn't always come in the form of a heart-to-heart, and more often than not, trying to get it leads to more confusion, more frustration, and more emotional chaos. Here's the truth. Don't seek closure through conversation. Find it through clarity and distance. You don't need a dramatic ending. You don't need a back and forth filled with tears and apologies. What you need is peace. And sometimes the most powerful way to find peace is by walking away without a speech. by choosing silence over shouting, calm over chaos, distance over unnecessary explanation. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your anchor. Seneca said, "He who seeks control over others must first master his own response." You don't need to control how they see it, how they react, or whether they get it. Your power lies in your ability to step back with self-respect. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about your own well-being to no longer stay in places that drain you. It means choosing yourself, not because you're cold, but because you're done being pulled into emotional circles that lead nowhere. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, let's call her Megan, kept going back and forth with someone who repeatedly let her down. Every time she tried to walk away, he'd come back with promises, emotional appeals, and deep talks that led to temporary change. But nothing ever stuck. Megan was caught in the cycle of drama, trying to talk her way into peace. One day she decided to try something different. She didn't argue. She didn't demand understanding. She just stopped responding. She detached. And for the first time, she felt relief. Not because she got closure from him, but because she gave it to herself. So how do you choose detachment over drama? First, accept that not every ending needs an explanation. Some people aren't capable of giving you the closure you're looking for. Second, prioritize your inner calm. Ask yourself, will this conversation bring peace or prolong pain? And third, trust the silence. Let it speak louder than the drama ever could. At the end of the day, peace is not found in trying to fix people. It's found in letting go of what no longer serves you. You don't need one more apology, one more discussion, or one more breakdown. You need space. You need clarity. And most of all, you need your peace back. Choose detachment. Walk away quietly, and let that be the loudest thing you've ever said. If you believe this video can help others, give it a like. It helps the YouTube algorithm show it to more people. And don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments. I will definitely reply.